Welcome to today's math lesson on writing equations in the form of y equals mx plus b from tables. Our do now reads, the graph shows a linear relationship between the total number of yards of ribbon y. Miracle needs to make x number of bows. Which equation best represents the same linear equation? So what we can do is we can find 2 points and then find our change in y over our change in x. So I see that this is not a good point because it's not at an intersection of the grid. This is a good point because it's at an intersection of the grid. And the numbers are small, but my change in y, if this right here is 2, one more would be 3. So my change in y is going to be 3 over my change in x, which is 2. So my constant of proportionality is 3 over 2. And since this is a proportional relationship, since the line goes through the origin and it's a straight line, I know that it has to be written in the form of y is equal to k times x. In this case, our k is 3 over 2. So I'm looking for y is equal to 3 over 2x, which is answer choice A. Our TEK for today is 8.5i. Our lesson target is that scholars will write equations in the form y is equal to mx plus b to model a linear relationship between two quantities using tabular representations. Tabular is just another way to say table. Our DOL is given 4 problems. Scholars will write equations in the form of y equals mx plus b to model a linear relationship between two quantities using tabular representations with 100% accuracy. Then we have our vocabulary words: constant rate of change, linear equation, linear relationships, nonlinear relationships, slope, slope-intercept form, x-coordinate, y-coordinate, and y-intercepts. And these are the same vocab words that we've been going over as we've been covering this TEK. This first IDU problem reads, let's examine how to write an equation based on a situation that models a linear relationship. We have the table shows the temperature of a fish tank during an experiment. Write the equation for the graph in slope-intercept form. So when we have a horizontal table like this, a flat table, even though the letter being used here is H and F, our top row is always going to represent our x values, and our bottom row is always going to represent our y values. So our step 1 is to find the slope by choosing 2 points from the table. So I'm going to choose these first 2 points. Any 2 points from the table can be chosen, this first one and the last one, or any of the middle ones can be chosen, but just to make it easier, I'm always going to choose the first 2 points to find the slope. Then I'm going to write out my slope equation. We have m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now I'm going to label the points. So 0 and 82, I'm going to label x1, y1. 1 and 80, x2, y2. And then I'm going to plug the numbers into this equation right here. So y2 minus y1, we have 80 minus 82 over 1 minus 0. 80 minus 82 is negative 2. 1 minus 0 is positive 1. Negative 2 divided by positive 1 is negative 2. So our slope is negative 2. Then we had to find or identify the y-intercept. The y-intercept can be identified in a table when you find the y value for whenever the x is 0. So our y-intercept is the y value when the x is 0. In this case, that's this right here, right? Our y value is 82 when our x value is 0. So our y-intercept is 82, our slope is negative 2, and we're going to combine that information together into our slope-intercept form, which is y is equal to mx plus b. Our m, or our slope, is negative 2. And then our b, or our y-intercept, is positive 82. So our equation is going to be y is equal to negative 2x plus 82. We could also write it as y is equal to 82 plus negative 2x because we're just switching around the slope and the y-intercept, which one comes first. And the last way to write it is y is equal to 82 minus 2x. So instead of 82 plus negative 2x, we can just simplify it to 82 minus 2x. This I do reads, the table shows the volume of water released by the Hoover Dam over a certain period of time. Write the equation for the graph in slope-intercept form. So now we have a vertical table, an up and down table. So even though in this case, the units are s and m squared or meters squared, I know that any of the left values are going to represent my x values, and any of the right values are going to represent my y value. So to find the slope, first I'm going to write out the slope equation, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then I'm going to choose my 2 points. So always choose my first 2 points. You guys can choose any other points. As long as you do the math correctly, you should be getting the same slope. So I'm going to label my points now. 5 and 75,000. I'm going to label my 5 my x1, my 75,000 my y1, 10 my x2, 150,000 my y2. And then I'm going to plug in the numbers into this equation. So y2 is 150,000 minus y1, which is 75,000, over x2, which is 10, minus x1, which is 5. So when we subtract 150,000 minus 75,000, we get 75,000. And then we have to subtract 10 minus 5, which is 5. When we divide 75,000 divided by 5, we get 12,000. Or, I'm sorry, I meant to say 15,000. So our slope is going to be 15,000. And here we can't easily identify what our y-intercept is because there is no x value of 0, right? So what we're going to have to do is write our slope into our equation. So we have y is equal to 15,000x plus b, and then we have to choose one of the points and plug in the x value and then the y value. So our y value is 75,000. And then we have to plug in the x value of 5. So when we multiply 15,000 times 5, we get 75,000. And because we want to figure out the value of b, what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 75,000 on both sides. So one way to think about this is the opposite of adding 75,000 is subtracting 75,000. Another way is the opposite of a positive 75,000 is a negative 75,000. $75,000 minus 75,000 is 0. So we have b is 0. So if our y-intercept is 0, that means that this is a proportional relationship because we have y is equal to 15,000 x. Since our y-intercept is 0. So we know that this graph goes through the origin, or the point 0, 0. There was some UDO questions And then instead of a regular DOL today, there was a power DOL. So it's a 10-question DOL that doesn't just cover today's TEK, but past TEKs. So there's going to be some questions on here that go over today's TEK or 8.5i. This test will be on All in Learning. And so to get to All in Learning, you have to log into Clever. Then you find the All in Learning app and click on the Power DOL. Thank you so much for following along in today's lesson, and see you in the next math video. Bye.